Continuing and finishing that thought about Section 8 exacerbating this housing problem that I'm talking about here. It's no longer, it used to be, back in the day when they were, causing homelessness, they called it because of a housing shortage, right? They never tried to claim, okay, that high housing costs are a good thing any more than they would try to claim that high food costs are a good thing, or electricity prices, or water rates, okay, any more than those things were a good thing, high taxes. But they've been doing that and people have bought into it largely. And it's maddening to me when I got to sit back and I see this thing so clearly, and it is so profoundly diabolical. That's why most people can't wrap their mind around it. It reminds me of like look up a triple agent. Okay, everybody's heard of double agents, but look up triple agent, maybe a quadruple agent. Okay, we never know. I mean, it's so it boggles your mind. It throws you off balance. It discombobulates you when you try to wrap your mind around this stuff. Why would they do that? Why would they exacerbate the problems? Because the most important uh, manifestation, the most important outcome, the object is to keep people down, to keep them poor, because that is where their power, their control resides. Okay, they've got to keep people poor. This is where they get the crime, and they get the instability in society through this financial desperation. So they've got to control the purse strings, and that's what they do. And so they just use a lot of people under and get us all to accept it's all normal. And it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it's just, for me, and that's why I've got to talk about it, because I got to get it off my chest. I tell you what, it just makes me nuts to think that these people are deliberately creating poverty, and the implications of that, and the incentive, the motivation they have to do that, and how it has become fascist because the government's involved, because it's kind of an open secret, right? It's not even veiled in any way, that they know they get more money when your property taxes, real estate taxes go up. They make money. But yet the same government is the one subsidizing the housing cost. Do you understand? And exacerbating the problem, making the problem worse, having homelessness rise. They're not solving the problem. So they put some band. Well, this is a serious problem. What we need is shelters, and charities have to take over. And even though things get worse and worse, they won't say to people, hey, well, we got to open up homesteading again, because we can't tell people they don't have a right to exist, but we keep driving them off public property, private property, and telling them, look, you move along now, move along. And these aren't criminals. If they were criminals, they'd be in jail costing the taxpayers $50,000 a year. So do you get why I'm irked about this? And that's what I believe God is pissed off about, because this is how the wars get started. And we all know the implications just of those dubious wars, and the children being murdered and slaughtered and maimed, and all the people, all the innocent people, all this destruction. What do you think God thinks about that? It's all about the money. It's all about Satan's hold on humanity. And this national debt, this foreboding, looming, it's just, it's a horrible thing that we know is coming to us, and yet we just bury our heads in the sand altogether. The liberals and the conservatives, the Democrats, the Republicans, the socialists and the capitalists, just bury. You're all on the same page. You're all establishmentarians. You're all like the Laodiceans. You're not getting it. You say, yeah, well, I don't want to rock the boat too much because, my numbers look good and they're going up. And you see, everybody's got their own rationale. They say, certainly God understands. I mean, I myself have said, look, you think God knows you're not a money lover? That's like saying that you don't like to pay your bills. So let's not be pretentious here. Let's at least be honest with our conscience before God and say, God understands I'm a money lover. Yeah, he knows I love to pay my bills. So, and what do I do that with? I do it with money, okay? So it's not like God is stupid and anybody's going to fool God because they've deceived themselves, because their head is filled with psychobabble rationalizations, because this is the only way they can cope and contend in their minds. They've got to be successful as defined by the world's standards, prosperous, okay, as defined by the world's standards, rich, right, wealthy, well-to-do, well-heeled. Okay, they want to be on that side of the equation. They'll fight the good fight, right, as long as we don't rock the boat too much. But any talk about reality in terms of economic policy, and just saying, look, we've got to stop this thing in its track, grab the bull by the horns, and just say no to increasing debt. This is how they increase the poverty, financial desperation. This is how they create extreme desperate poverty. The dubious war. Okay, this is the heart of everything. This is the debt. This is the beast, and it's just breathing down our necks, and people aren't confronting it. They're not offensive toward the real beast. They're not going for the jugular. They're not going for the root of the problem. Okay, and this is, I mean, guests, I watch Alex Jones all the time and all his guests. I mean, there needs to be much more discussion about this and what it's going to take politically, the courage it's going to take for these politicians. If they're really on the side of humanity fighting the good fight, they've got to make certain demands. And one of the most fundamental demands is just pure progress by not interfering. It's the government interfering, these bureaucrats and politicians as defined by these people and their proxies and quasi-agencies and all this crap. They interfere. These are all special interest groups colluding against the best interests of the people. And the best interest of the people is a strong dollar, an inflated dollar, a dollar that steadily increases in worth. That is progress. That will raise everybody's standard of living without you needing pay increases. Hell, you could get pay decreases as long as they're not happening faster than the worth of your currency is going up. You get what I'm saying? So mathematically, everything I'm saying and teaching and preaching is sound. It's logical. It's reasonable. And it can be proven. So it's scientific. It's like math. There's no two ways to look at this thing. I know what I'm talking about, and people that would disagree with me don't know what they're talking about. And they can never point to a time in history when humanity was allowed to be free, to prove that it actually works to set the captives free. Okay, that we don't need to have a one-up on anybody. Nobody. We don't need to have an advantage over anybody. People have an instinct to be godlike. Okay, when you're born free, your paradigm, your reality is entirely different from birth. Profoundly, dramatically, incomprehensibly different. Okay, so nobody can tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, that I'm this wild-eyed pipe dreamer that is just this idealist, okay, which has become a pejorative term according to the world, right? If you're idealistic, you're a nutcase, basically. You're a dreamer, pipe dreamer. All right? And you have no credence. And I say the opposite. I say that's exactly what the whole Bible, this is the whole faith teachings. I mean, we're striving to be better people, more godly, godlike, to be friends of God, to be friends of humanity. That's the whole idea of being holy, righteous, a good human being, an upright person. You'd set the captives free, live together in peace and harmony with all humanity. That's what it's about. And if that's idealistic, great. That's what you want to be. That's a beautiful thing. You don't compromise. Why would you accept anybody telling you, oh, you got to compromise because of evil. You got to keep letting them rule the world through murder, through getting their way through murder. And you got to say, no, I'm not doing it. And say anybody that tells me that I have to or that I should, I'm going to disagree with vociferously. And I'm going to say, no, here, prove me wrong. We can all live together. Okay, without money, but with full prosperity. So I kind of think I beat that horse to death, and I'm going to get into some of the current events from this past week, and then go on to some thoughts. Oh, Maria Bartoloma, whatever how you pronounce her last name, she stood up to Podesta. Kudos to her. So, just wanted to say that about that reporter. Maria Bartoloma. Good for her. A military jet crashed for unknown reasons. This sort of thing should never happen. They'll say, well, yeah, you could put a parachute on the whole plane, but that would be expensive. See, everything, life and death stuff, doesn't matter if it's dollars and cents outweighs it. That's the way the world thinks. But they've had parachutes for planes for a long time. So the idea that they couldn't put parachutes on this transporter plane, I mean, that thing could have floated to the ground if it was equipped properly with parachutes to allow it to do so. I'm just saying, there's a lot of safety measures that could be put in place that would save lives. And I don't care if it costs $1 billion to save a life. You understand, it's meaningless to me. You know how I feel about this whole thing. We've all been duped and taken, and I'm done with it, man. This whole idea of we're going to measure in terms of dollars and cents, lives, and that's worldly thinking. That's secular thought. That's what they've trained us. Think this is in any way, shape, or form okay. Okay, to put money ahead of one human life. All the money in the world ahead of one human life is not okay. Let's be very straight on that. Donald Trump Jr. is being nailed to the cross, and certainly, Donald Trump probably should have talked about this a lot sooner, because certainly his son shared with him anything he learned. I don't know. The whole thing stinks to high heaven, and it's probably nothing even that matters, because that's what candidates do with each other during a campaign. They all try to dig up dirt. I mean, it's not like, remember the bombshell thing about Trump talking dirty with the Billy Bush guy? Okay, I mean, we know the Democrats were behind that. I mean, who else had the motivation, the incentive to do that? So all these things are happening, on both sides of the aisle. They'll dig up any dirt they can. You think if they couldn't have found anything on Trump from any source that was willing to come forth, they wouldn't have? I mean, that's absurd. But yet they're going to crucify Trump. Oh, he's treasonous, and Trump needs to be impeached. Oh my God, we never heard of such a thing. This is beyond the pale. Oh, OMG. Oh, woe is us. And they're all sanctimonious when they're full of crap. They're liars. They just want to deflect attention away from their own crimes, their own unethical, immoral, ungodly, unholy behavior, okay, toward humanity. Basically, when you are not for the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth, I don't care what you are. It doesn't, party affiliation, communist, socialist, capitalist, conservative, liberal, okay, it doesn't matter to me, because they're all just words until we sit down one-on-one and define what exactly we're talking about. Okay, just the best parts about socialism. But now you're not talking about thievery where we're going to take from others because they have more, right? We're going to do this in a way that makes sense. We're just going to allow the have-nots to have. We're going to not take from the haves, right? Because that just creates animosity and tax loopholes and evasion, avoidance of taxes through attorneys and legalese, okay, legalism. Okay, so that doesn't work. We've got to put that whole notion to rest that communism or socialism works. It never has, it never will. It's theft, okay, and it just creates problems. And it doesn't work. That's enough right there. So we've got to face that reality. But it doesn't matter which side it is, but we've got to just say, look, okay, we got to stop being evil and stop pointing fingers when we ourselves are guilty of the same thing. Okay? Hypocrisy is not okay in any name. Okay, hypocrisy is hypocrisy under any other name, just like Shakespeare would have said about a rose, right? It's the same. It smells as sweet or stinks as bad, and that's what hypocrisy is. So even if you're a hypocrite or I'm a hypocrite, at least we need to start by admitting it and confessing it. It's the first step to getting over it. Even if we don't get over it right away, we're working on it. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. Was it Confucius that said that? But, I don't think it's fair. I don't think the media is fair at all. I think that they really play up this bash Trump angle and just this full of vitriol everywhere out there. And it's frightening because I do think Trump is trying to be like JFK as much as he can. I don't like this idea that he's meeting with Macron over there in France and that but you know what? This could be a case of love, loving somebody to death. I mean, really, that's it. It's just being a friend of your enemy, okay? Like Churchill said, getting close to your enemy, okay? This is what I've got to believe it is, that Trump is anti-New World Order. The establishment all hates him, so the evidence is there. Remember during the campaign, the Pope was against him, and we all know what people think about what's going on in the Catholic Church with all the child pedophilia and all this crap. I mean, and there's stuff I don't even like to talk about, but the news, the information is out there. They're getting caught right out front by the Italian police. I believe it was the Italian police. What's his name? This guest that Alex Jones has on the show. But he knows a lot about what's going on over there. They're getting caught in homosexual orgies, using drugs, cocaine. They're getting caught with. This is going on among I guess, the Vatican members, okay? These are people that are high up in the church. So the people don't have a great opinion of them. But these are the kind of people that were against Trump, okay? And it's so horrible that he wants to make a wall. I think he made too big a deal out of that, because really he should just focus on the incentives and say, well, I'm sorry, but what we've got to do is put our foot down. That we don't have the work for our own citizens here. Charity begins at home. The best thing we can do for other nations is to set a good example. You know, this is really what it comes down to, is saying, look, we've got to set a shining light example. We've got to fix our own damn problems before we start interfering all over the world and telling people we could fix their problems, or inviting them here to when we have our own problems that need to be addressed, confronted, and solved.